The Abarth 600e gate crashes the growing EV hot hatch segment with an Alfa Junior Veloce-derived electric powertrain and striking looks. It's a small Latin shopping rocket showing us that the electric era might be rather fun after all. My name's Jonathan Crouch. I've been testing cars for over 40 years. You'll find them all on the Car and Driving Car Review app. Here, I'm going to try and tell you everything you really need to know about this one in a way you'll find nowhere else. Let me hand you over to our presenter, Colin.
The most powerful Abarth model ever isn't some kind of junior supercar, but an electric version of a fairly humble Fiat family hatch. Driving excitement is still in prospect though from this car, the Abarth 600e. We've had Abarth models of this size before, the rare Abarth Punto, but the brand is mainly known for citycar-shaped pocket rockets. In 2022, with the launch of the Abarth 500e, those started to turn electric, and this fast 600e continues that trend, borrowing much of its engineering from three other similarly sized fast Stellantis Group models: the Peugeot e-208 GTI, the Vauxhall Mokka GSE, and the top Veloce version of Alfa Romeo's Junior Elettrica. The wild look you get here is very much of a Fiat 600e on steroids, but the differences between the two cars are more than skin and spoiler deep, thanks to this Abarth model's performance-orientated Perfo e-CMP platform. You can find out more about this kind of car by downloading the Car and Driving app, but if your interest is specifically in this Abarth 600e, you'll need to stay with us for the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. EV hot hatches of this size tend to be either the hot or the ultra-rapid Vindaloo kind. You'll be served up the former recipe with an Abarth 600e, particularly if you choose the standard 240 horsepower Turismo model that most sales are centred around. Abarth is also offering an uprated Scorpionissima version with the 280 horsepower motor used in Stellantis models as diverse as the Vauxhall Mokka GSE, the Peugeot e-208 GTI and the Alfa Romeo Junior Elettrica Veloce. And that's the car we've chosen to try here. Both variants drive through the front wheels and use a 54 kilowatt hour battery pack, 51 kilowatt hours of which is usable, theoretically able to take the car up to 207 miles if you drive this Italian hot hatch in the way a typical enthusiast owner never would. 62 miles an hour from rest in the Turismo takes 6.2 seconds, 5.8 seconds in the Scorpionissima, but the 345 Nm peak torque figure doesn't change, so there's not much perceived performance benefit in the faster version, en route to a 124 mile an hour top speed that would drain the battery very quickly indeed. Any friends who sneer at the thought of a bespoilered Fiat 600 can be put firmly in their place with the news that the underpinnings here are usefully different. This Abarth rides on an evolved Perfo version of the donor car's Stellantis e-CMP platform that brings track width enhancements, 30mm more at the front and 25 more at the rear. There's also a performance-enhancing battery cooling system, plus a Torsen limited slip differential sourced from Japanese specialist J-Tect, which provides extra torque on the outside wheel for improved handling and traction when turning. British braking experts Alcon provide the quad piston calipers and the large 380mm brake discs developed to resist fade on track. They're probably the best stoppers we've yet tried on a compact EV. Plus, the front and rear anti-roll bars have been stiffened by 140%, and there's a grippy set of bespoke Michelin tyres. All this is good and allows you to enjoy the car through a set of twisting turns with real confidence and momentarily forget its quite prodigious 1,642 kilo curb weight and a slight lack of optimum steering feedback. What you might not be quite so keen on is the stiffened suspension setup borrowed from the Junior Veloce, which drops the car by 25mm over an equivalent Fiat 600e and incorporates struts at the front and torsion beam at the rear. It's 41% firmer than the equivalent Fiat and really quite unyielding over poor suburban surfaces and speed humps, though no worse than the Puma ST we tried recently. The drive modes are the same as those used in the 500e. The standard one is Turismo, which limits output to 187 horsepower and top speed to 93 miles an hour to preserve range, and gives lighter steering and a gentler throttle response for town driving. The mid-setting, Scorpion Street, adds some weight to the steering, while the top one, Scorpion Track, unlocks the full powertrain output, which, if you're not careful, can result in massive wheel spin in the wet. On the highway, when you're not pushing along, this Abarth is actually reasonably refined, helped by high-performance Michelin performance tyres, apparently developed with Formula E tech, that balance efficiency and grip and are around 20% quieter than the ones fitted to a Fiat 600e. Talking of journeying noise, the most notable feature about that smaller Abarth 500e was its fake engine note. Well, you may or may not be pleased to discover that you don't get that on this 600e unless you stretch to this rarer Scorpionissima version, where the sound is slightly less irritatingly intrusive. You activate it via a performance menu Abarth has added to the Uconnect center screen, a section that also includes various extra gauges, most of them of dubious driver benefit, plus a racing section where you can time tyre burning sprints and access a G-force meter. Changing the cuddly Disney-style looks of the donor Fiat 600e model to create the street racer vibe of this Abarth can't have been the work of a moment, but stylists from this little Italian brand really went about it with purpose. You'll need to like the cute, rather endearing vibe of that original Fiat to like it, but if you do, then you might agree with us that this is an EV hot hatch with more than its share of pavement presence. You might even sense something of a touring car feel encouraged by the wild, roof-mounted, rear Scorpion-branded spoiler with its squared-off corners. There's a mean black shark fin antenna, dark Abarth tailgate lettering, and lower down a large latticed black lower diffuser-style panel with a Scorpion badge in the middle. And in profile, well, all versions of this car get Scorpion front wing badgework, glossy black mirror caps, and these big 20-inch diamond-cut wheels with their very bright hubcaps. This top Scorpionissima version is set apart by Abarth Plus side stickers, glossy black B-pillars, Abarth green front brake calipers, and rear privacy glass. At the Abarth branded front, there's the kind of enlarged grille you'd think an EV wouldn't need, and beady black brows for the sleepy-looking tinted headlights, below which the original Fiat's rather gender-specific lipstick kiss daytime running lights are retained. In contrast, the black squared-off bumper section below reprises the street racer vibe and is said to be reminiscent of the Abarth 850 TC from 1960. No, I don't remember it either. This incorporates the fog lights, lurid paintwork options, and a Scorpion bonnet badge complete the effect. Will it be as extrovert inside? Let's take a look. Well, it all feels satisfyingly sporty, doesn't it? But that's only if you stretch to this top Scorpionissima model, which gains these lovely body-hugging heated racing Seatbelt seats with perforated Alcantara and Scorpion Flage upholstery. The aluminium pedals and special floor mats of this pricier variant also set the right tone. Rather less welcome is the slightly cringy Mind the Scorpion branding on the central tunnel cover and the driver's side of the matte black dash panel, another thing you only get with Scorpionissima trim. The base Abarth 600e gets a lot less love inside, front seats that are merely sporty, and a yellow-stitched 3-spoke sports steering wheel with thumb indents and a 12 o'clock marker, apart from branded kick plates, acid green themed displays and bespoke instrument graphics. That's about it. Still, there are some nice touches derived from the original Fiat design. That central tunnel cover has a neat magnetised folding arrangement, and you get these smart little round speakers in the A-pillars. You'll be searching around for the gear shifter the first time you get into this car. That's dealt with by these Maserati-like gear shift buttons below the centre stack. With both variants, you sit higher than you might expect to in a hot hatch on top of all those batteries. And it's disappointing that whatever kind of front chairs you end up with, neither the seat cushions nor the side bolsters can be extended or adjusted, although on this Scorpionissima model, you do get a massaging function. We mentioned the 7-inch TFT instrument screen. Pressing the end of the left stalk varies its layout. Most of the time you'll probably choose this rev counter like charge, eco, power gauge, but you can alternatively choose to prioritise trip data, nav mapping, an energy flow meter or a drive assist graphic. Pressing the end of the right stalk brings up trip data. Like all the buttons and stalks, the 10.3-inch central infotainment screen is pretty much the same as you'd get in the equivalent Fiat, except that here a special Abarth performance segment has been added. This includes a torque section, a gauges section with gauges for power, battery level, battery temperature and battery voltage, plus a racing section where you can time yourself to 40 or 60 miles an hour and measure cornering G-forces. Otherwise, it's the usual Fiat Uconnect setup featuring a home screen, also incorporating nav, media, phone and energy sections. Swipe left for full nav mapping and left again for a screen with an energy flow meter, climate functions and the usual Stellantis screen app drawer section, which amongst other things connects you into the screen's gaming and voice control sections. As with the Fiat 600, frontward vision is fine. Your rearward view, though, is rather compromised by the substantial rear C-pillars. So you'll have need of the rear parking sensors and on a base model might wish you had the rear view camera you get on this higher spec Scorpionissima variant. Various handy cabin storage compartments collectively offer 15 litres of stowage space, which would be a lot more if the glove box wasn't halved in size by the fuse box. Still, there are plenty of other places for your odds and ends. The neat centre tunnel compartment we mentioned earlier has a USB-C port with a 12-volt socket and incorporates a wireless charging mat with Scorpionissima trim. Between the seats is a deep bin with cup holder slots, and another deep-lidded bin resides behind. Plus you get ticket clips in the sun visors and reasonably shaped door pockets. Time as ever to take a look in the rear, where this really does feel like a car at the smaller end of the super mini size scale. There's really not that much legroom at all, and as an adult your knees are going to be uncomfortably pressed against the angled front seat backs if the folk ahead of you happen to be long of leg. It doesn't help that the window line is so high, which might make some children or indeed adults feel a touch claustrophobic on longer trips. Plus you have to do without door bins, and the headrests are of the sort that uncomfortably dig into your shoulder until you raise them up. You wouldn't expect an armrest in a super mini class car, and you don't get it. What you might expect in such a front-driven and EV-orientated model is a lower centre tunnel than this. As it is, a third adult in the middle is really going to struggle. Let's finish with a look in the boot, which is the only place you have to store the charging leads, because the e-CMP2 platform doesn't allow for an underbonnet frunk. You get a powered tailgate on this Scorpionissima model, and once it raises, a 360 litre space is revealed, 40 litres less than the similarly engineered Alfa Junior Veloce. Stuff can be stowed beneath this adjustable height boot floor, like the charging lead, but not below the cargo base, where there's certainly not space for anything other than a tyre repair kit. There's a broad squarish boot aperture. Tie-down points are absent, but there are bag hooks on both sides and a light on the left-hand side. As usual on this class of car, you don't get either a ski hatch or a 40-20-40 folding bench. Push forward the 60-40 split backrest and up to 1,231 litres of almost flat space is revealed. At the time of this test in autumn 2025, prices were starting from around £37,000 for the 240 horsepower Turismo model, with a big price jump to around £40,000 for the 280 horsepower Scorpionissima variant that we're trying here. Abarth said at this car's launch that the Scorpionissima model would, to start with, be limited to a global production run of just 1,949 models. As for competitors and the value proposition, well, it depends on which 600e derivative you're looking at. The base 240 horsepower Turismo version of this model is priced similarly to a couple of key rivals, the Alpine A290 GTS with 220 horsepower and the Mini Aceman John Cooper Works with 258 horsepower. But both those competitors offer significantly more EV range. The 280 horsepower drivetrain of this top Scorpionissima 600e is the same as that used in the Vauxhall Mokka GSE, which, as we filmed, cost around £37,000. The Peugeot E208 GTI, for which you'll need slightly more, and the Alfa Romeo Junior Veloce-derived, which, as we filmed, cost from just over £42,000. The other single-motor EV fast-hatch alternatives in this class are two identically engineered 322 horsepower Volkswagen Group models, the Cupra Born VZ, which as we film costs from around £45,000, and the Volkswagen ID3 GTX, which costs from just over £36,000. We'll also mention that if you really want speed in a car of this kind, there are four twin-motor all-wheel drive models in the class. The MG4 X-Power, which offers 429 horsepower and looks spectacular value at around £37,000, as we filmed. Then there are two similarly engineered models, the Smart #1 Brabus and the Volvo EX30 twin-motor Performance, which both have 428 horsepower and cost around £43,000 at the time of this test. And finally, there's the Skoda Elroq VRS, which has 335 horsepower and cost around £47,000 at the time of this test. Lots of alternatives then. So you're really going to need to like this Abarth's rather unique Italianette look and feel. But you might, so let's take a closer look at spec now. The base version gets 20-inch diamond-cut alloy wheels with Abarth calipers and performance tyres, plus LED reflector headlamps, adaptive cruise control, LED rear signature tail lamps, rear parking sensors, rain-sensing wipers, glossy black door mirror covers, a volumetric alarm, and LED front fog lamps with a cornering function. Inside, there's a 7-inch TFT instrument cluster with specific Abarth graphics, dedicated sports seats, an E-mode drive selector, a 3-spoke sports steering wheel, an electrochromatic rear view mirror, and automatic climate control. Infotainment's dealt with by a Uconnect 10.25-inch centre screen, featuring a 6-speaker audio system and wireless Apple CarPlay with Android Auto. For the stuff you'll really want, though, you've to stretch to this Scorpionissima version, identifiable by its Abarth Plus side stickers, glossy black B-pillars, and two features which come as part of a standard Scorpion design pack: Abarth green front brake calipers and rear privacy glass. That design pack also includes lovely heated racing Seatbelt seats with perforated Alcantara and Scorpion Flage upholstery, plus a dashboard fascia in matte black with gloss black serigraphy, along with aluminium pedals, special floor mats, a bespoke tunnel pad cover and power adjustment with a massage function for the driver's seat. This Scorpionissima additionally comes with a standard Scorpion Tech Pack, which includes more practical stuff like a powered tailgate with hands-free opening, a cargo flex kit, keyless entry, a rear view camera, power folding mirrors with puddle lights, front and side parking sensors, and wireless mobile phone charging. Plus, an autonomous driving level 2 package, which adds lane centering and a stop-and-go system to the adaptive cruise control setup. Scorpionissima spec also includes a winter pack that gives you heat for the front seats and windscreen wiper blades. And remember that only this Scorpionissima model features a sound generator for simulated engine noise. You may or may not appreciate that. What about options? Well, at no extra cost, you can specify eco tyres rather than these grippier performance ones, and you can add an optional Connect Plus package into the Uconnect infotainment system with a 6-month trial period, which will allow you to remotely manage your vehicle and battery charging. this really ought to be standard. With the base 600e, unless you order your car in the only standard colour, solid antidote white, you'll be paying more for your chosen shade. £650 more in the case of this extrovert acid green finish that we've got here. There's no extra charge for paint with this Scorpionissima version though, which only comes in this acid green or hypnotic purple. Safety kit fitted to both 600e variants includes the usual autonomous emergency braking system, lane departure warning, drowsy driver detection, 6 airbags and an e-call emergency response system. This Scorpionissima version adds blind spot detection, traffic sign information and automatic high beam. We gave you the EV range figure, 207 miles in our driving section, nearly 50 miles down on the standard Fiat 600e and doubtless limited by the 1,642 kilogram curb weight, which would be the poorest showing in the class were it not essentially replicated by the other 3 Stellantis group models that share this powertrain: the Vauxhall Mokka GSE, the Peugeot E208 GTI and the Alfa Romeo Junior Elettrica Veloce. Most rivals are pushing far closer to the 250-mile mark, mindful perhaps that whatever range figure is quoted for a car like this, a typical press-on owner will be lucky to get 3/4 of that in everyday driving. Abarth quotes a 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour energy efficiency stat. We've certainly seen nothing like that on this test, usually around 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. On to charging. Now, the 54 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery, of which 51 kilowatt hours is usable, replenishes at a modest 100 kilowatts, which is 50 kilowatts down on the MG4 X-Power and 85 kilowatt down on the Volkswagen ID3 GTX, but on a par with the Mini Aceman JCW. With this Abarth, a public DC fast charge from 20 to 80% takes 27 minutes. AC charging from 0 to 100% from a 7.4 kilowatt home wall box takes 8 hours and 15 minutes, or 5 hours and 30 minutes from a 3-phase 11 kilowatt wall box. It's a yawning 26 hours from a domestic socket. You can, as usual, manage your charging regime from an energy section on the centre screen. If you want to do that via Abarth's Connect Plus smartphone app, you'll have to pay a subscription to do so after 6 months, which isn't really acceptable in this day and age. The centre screen's energy section has an energy flow graphic and a statistics section you can turn to if you want to make yourself feel really miserable, because it graphically measures your 600e's thirsty energy consumption over the last 30, 60 or 180 minutes. As usual with an Abarth, this car's covered by a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, and there's 36 months of breakdown cover included as well. Should you have a problem on a journey, you can use the Uconnect infotainment system to contact roadside assistance. What else might you need to know? Well, servicing intervals are every year or every 12,000 miles, whichever comes first. Owners can keep up to date with their car's maintenance schedule via the My Car section of that app, which briefs you on the time of your next service and various maintenance issues. Insurance is Group 35 for the Abarth 600e and Group 36 for this Scorpionissima version. At the time of filming, this model's price of just under £40,000 means that it dodges the government luxury car tax threshold. So both models have a first-year VED tax rate of £10 with a £195 yearly standard charge thereafter. This EV, like all others, is BIK tax rated at 3% until spring 2026. Expect residuals to be similar to those of the 500e, which holds around 48% of its original value after 3 years and 36,000 miles. Unlike quite a few manufacturers in this segment, Abarth has done the job properly here and created a proper performance-tuned hot hatch. You'll find the difference that makes if you drive this fast 600e back-to-back with cars in this segment like the Volkswagen ID3 GTX or even dual-motor EV models like the MG4 X-Power or the smart #1 Brabus. No, there's not quite as much power, but what you have, you can use more enjoyably. With a car like this, it's not how fast you go, but how fast it can bring a grin to your face. And this Abarth does that pretty rapidly. You'll have to like the suspension's fairly unyielding firmness, but hot hatch folk, and particularly Abarth hot hatch folk, tend not to mind too much about that. These people will like this car's sheer chuckability through the bends, where the Torsen diff means there's plenty of cornering traction. There are a few things we'd change though. The Scorpionissima model's faster 280 horsepower motor and much of this top version's extra equipment should be standardised, and this pricier version's EV sound system feature should be included on the Turismo version most will choose. Plus, this car isn't quite as special as it should be inside, especially with base trim. If you can live with those caveats though, there are quite a few enjoyable Latin lessons to be had here.